The rapid ascent of TikTok to the top of global social media has introduced new ways of communication and new ways of forming communities. And this is where a thing called Cult-Tok has emerged. This term has been coined by the users themselves, and it describes a subculture that is obsessed with the identification, analysis, and in some cases, the creation and participation in online groups that bear the characteristics of cults. So Cult-Tok is this whole digital space where people actively participate in a public drama of figuring out, policing, and controlling what these groups do. It's a social media show that really highlights how fascinated society is with high control groups. And it shows us how we're developing new ways to understand how they work online. It's pretty wild. TikTok, which is the platform that helps these communities pop up so quickly, is also giving us the tools to pick them apart in public. And it creates this back and forth of people getting exposed, making accusations, and defending themselves, pointing fingers, all for millions to watch as entertainment. On one end of Cult-Tok is 7M Films, a talent management company intertwined with a church that's facing serious allegations of financial, emotional, and SA under a system of coercive control. On the other end of this is Step Chickens, a self-aware comedy cult that satirically adopted the aesthetics of devotion for entertainment and community building during a period of global isolation. Somewhere between this is The Garden, an off-the-grid commune whose unconventional and use of TikTok recruitment have led to pretty intense accusations of being a cult. All of these cases fall under the Cult-Tok label, but they're all different and are driven by different motivations and employing different ways of influence and control. Let's look into TikTok cults. Let's get spooky. Hey, spooky people. It's your best friend Kenny here, the Spooky Lawyer, and we are back with another spooky, disturbing story. Before we get to today's story, let's make sure that you are subscribed to this YouTube channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Please click like and share this video. Share this video with that person you know that has refused to get TikTok because, man, they're smug and let them have this win. The first thing you got to realize when talking about Cult-Tok is cult might not be the right term here. Some call it a slur word or a form of bullying that demeans less popular groups and distances them away from more powerful socially accepted religions. Any institution that has a shared culture and belief system, whether it's a family, a corporation, or a government, could technically be called a cult. The thing is, cult doesn't have a solid academic definition, and it's so loaded with negative meaning that it actually hides more than it reveals. So we're going to talk more about the specific behaviors that are problematic. Those behaviors are a high control environment, abusive dynamics, odd or strange leadership. When we talk about cults, a helpful way to understand what's going on isn't just to look at what they believe, but how they act. And this is the idea of coercive control. What we're seeing is, like abusive relationships, coercive control is prominent in cult culture too. It's about how someone strategically makes another person dependent on them. They might cut them off from friends and family, use their money or resources, or basically take away their ability to do anything on their own. It's a whole system designed to trap people by making sure there's a huge power difference. And this provides a checklist of observable tactics that can be applied across different groups. Key tactics of coercive control include manipulation, using deception, gaslighting, and emotional exploitation to distort a person's reality and undermine their judgment. Intimidation, which is creating a climate of fear through threats, either explicit or implied. Public shaming and punishment for dissent. Isolation, systematically severing a person's ties to friends, family, and outside sources of information, making the group their sole source of social and emotional support. There's micromanagement, controlling minute aspects of an individual's life, such as their finances, schedule, diet, and relationships. And this erodes their autonomy and capacity for independent decision-making. And there's also a us versus them structure where they foster a belief in the group that is righteous and enlightened, where the outside world is corrupt, dangerous. This is to justify the group's isolation and reinforce the members' loyalty. The reason why we're doing this is the ability to differentiate between the aesthetics of a cult and the mechanics of abuse. A group can use cult-like language or symbols playfully, but it doesn't employ these symbolic tactics of coercive control, it cannot be categorized as a harmful high control organization. Groups that present themselves as legitimate businesses, on the other hand, or a wellness community, can be identified as destructive if it uses these coercive control behaviors. So taking a behavior-based approach allows us to examine these groups better. High control groups are really effective because they target those basic human needs and vulnerabilities we all have. It's a dangerous myth to think that only stupid or weak people fall for cults. These groups often draw in smart, idealistic, emotionally sensitive individuals. Joining these groups isn't usually a conscious choice. It's more like a slow dance of seduction and social influence, where you don't really realize how deep you're getting in until you're too deep to get out. People are most vulnerable when they're feeling lonely, when they're searching for deeper meaning. Cults offer a powerful answer to these feelings, a promise of community, certainty, and a sense of belonging. To reel people in and keep them, these groups use clever psychological tricks. It often starts with love bombing, where new recruits are just showered with intense praise, affection, and attention. And it creates a really strong feeling of belonging, even a sense of owing something, binding the recruit to the group before they even realize what's really involved. Once the bond is established, they then start isolation. They do this by slowly putting difference between the members and their existing support system, family and friends, often by making them out to be negative influences or obstacles in the member's personal growth. As the member becomes more and more reliant on the group for validation, the leaders introduce thought-stopping techniques. These are things designed to shut down any critical thinking or doubts. Questions might be labeled as sinful, selfish, or a sign of weakness. And members are taught to suppress negative emotions through things like chanting, meditation, or other repetitive activities. They slowly chip away at critical thinking, which is what's important for maintaining control, chipping away at critical thinking. This all leads to the creation of a new identity. The member's real self gets pushed down and replaced with a new group-approved identity that's obedient to the leader and loyal to the ideology. The new identity finds happiness and self-work only through performing within the group, making the idea of leaving feel like a psychological death. These tactics aren't new, but online platforms have become incredibly efficient at employing these methods of manipulation. TikTok is a platform that's built in ways that helps these intense communities grow incredibly fast. The way its recommendation algorithm works with short videos and all the interactive stuff together creates a powerful engine for community building. What can be great for creating positive connections can also be used for manipulation and control. It's a system designed to keep you engaged and then can act as a tool for indoctrination, making it vulnerable to exploitation by manipulative people or groups. So how does TikTok get people hooked? Well, it's all about the For You page. That's the main screen you see when you open the app, and it's basically a never-ending stream of videos picked just for you by an algorithm. Unlike other social media where you had to actively follow people, TikTok's algorithm is always watching what you do. It's not just about likes and shares. It pays attention to everything, whether you finish a video, watch it again, or even how long you paused before swiping. All this data helps TikTok figure out exactly what you'll love and helps keep your feed perfectly tailored to your interests. Now, that's pretty good for finding stuff you like, but this super personalization can actually create some problems like filter bubbles and echo chambers. A filter bubble is a tiny world where you only see information the algorithm thinks you'll want, basically filtering out anything different. An echo chamber takes this further, surrounding you with content that just confirms what you already believe, making it seem like everyone agrees with you. I know we've all found ourselves realizing that we are in echo chambers on social media, and some of us have even tried to find ways out of it. On TikTok, the algorithm is powerful. It can quickly pick up on your political views, worries, or even really specific hobbies. And then it creates a reality where that one perspective is all that you see. This can trap us into narrow views of things, making it tough to see other sides and really encouraging groupthink, which can push even moderate opinions to become more extreme. So TikTok is really good at getting people hooked. It's all about these short videos, one after another, giving you tiny little doses of a certain idea. And you just keep swiping, hardly even thinking about it. And before you know it, you're deep into this worldview that you're being fed. It's pretty dangerous how quickly it can push people towards extreme views. The algorithm is basically designed to show you stuff that gets a big reaction out of you. If you even pause for a second on a video, say a conspiracy theory, TikTok's going to hit you with more and more intense versions of it. A new account can get totally swamped by one specific topic in just half an hour. This constant exposure can push people into niche groups. The thing is, TikTok's main goal is to keep you engaged so they can make money. And that doesn't always line up with what's good for you. In fact, it frequently doesn't line up with what's good for you. This creates a system where people who are good at making engaging emotional content have a huge advantage. It's not a neutral platform. It actively picks out and boosts the most effective manipulators. So TikTok is incredible at building communities. It's got all of these features that bring people together in ways that are good and bad. Think about it. It's a fantastic place for people to get creative, express themselves, and find folks who get that. You can connect with people all over the world, even if they're super different from you. Like I have found all of you spooky people. You can feel like you belong, whether it's because of a shared hobby or a shared background or a shared life experience. The algorithm can help you discover creators and things like challenges, really get people collaborating and speaking the same cultural language. But here's the thing. Those same features can be used for not great stuff too. Look at hashtags and trending sounds. They're awesome for building communities, but they can also become a secret handshake for high control groups, making people feel like they're in an exclusive club. The feeling of personal connection that influencers can create with multiple followers can be used to build a charismatic authority and a one-sided intimacy that makes people more vulnerable to manipulation. TikTok gives people a set of tools, and you can use them to build a really supportive, positive community or a really controlling one. So it's not about the tools themselves. It's about what people decide to do them. Like with everything, the real villain here are people. 7M Films is a Los Angeles-based talent management company for TikTok dancers, and it provides a stark and compelling example of a modern, high-control group operating with themes of religion, social media, and making money. There's a Netflix documentary called Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult. And in it, the organization is accused of functioning as a cult that exerts extreme control over its members through a blend of spiritual doctrine, financial exploitation, and leverage. Professional and personal leverage. Looking at 7M as a coercive control group shows a sophisticated system of abuse, one that represents a significant evolution of the cult model for the 21st century social media. At the center of 7M Films is its founder, Robert Shin, who is also a pastor at the Shekinah Church. This is a religious organization he established in 1994, and this dual role is important to the group's power structure. The lines between the church and the for-profit talent management company are blurred, creating a hybrid entity that allows Shin to exert control over his followers on multiple fronts with multiple aspects, sexual, financial, and professional. Many of the dancers signed to 7M were also members of the Shekinah congregation, and he used his sermons to brag about their success, reinforcing his authority. And he supposedly has a history of doing this. Shin's former members claim that Shin previously staffed other businesses, including cafes and real estate companies, with church members who are paid minimum wage for long hours of work. Shin saw that TikTok dancers could have the potential for new revenue streams. Through 7M, he was able to deliver results, securing his clients high-profile opportunities like commercials, appearances on The Ellen Show, and performances at major sporting events. And with the success brought a powerful tool of influence. Dancers are seeking fame and a career, so they were driven to do whatever it looked like Shin wanted to help them with those goals, which created a intense devotion and dependency to Shin. 7M uses classic patterns of coercive control. A primary mechanism of control is financial. Former members and clients have accused 7M and the Shekinah Church of taking up to 80% of their gross earnings through a combination of management fees and required donations to the church. This level of financial control leaves members dependent on the organization for their basic needs, which significantly limits their ability to leave. Another tactic of coercive control used by 7M is isolation. Shin reportedly taught a doctrine called dying to yourself and your family. Members were instructed that they needed to cut off contact with their families to save them or achieve spiritual resurrection. This led to estrangement, most famously in the case of Miranda Derrick, who became cut off to her parents and sister for years after joining 7M. The severing of outside support systems is a textbook method for increasing a member's reliance on the group and its leader. Multiple former members have accused Shin of SA, emotional, and financial abuse, as well as intimidation and manipulation. The environment was one where influencers were constantly seeking Shin's approval, indicating a power dynamic built on manipulation and withholding of validation. After former members began to speak out, Shin employed legal tactics to silence them. He filed a defamation and trade libel lawsuit against those who publicly claimed he was running a cult. Using the legal system is a form of intimidation designed to punish dissenters and encourage others from coming forward. But several former dancers joined a cross complaint against Shin, accusing him of fraud, forced labor, and SA, and a trial is expected this year. 7M used TikTok as a tool for revenue generation and public relations. The viral dance videos created by 7M members projected an image of happiness, unity, and professional success, effectively masking the alleged abuse occurring behind the scenes. However, the same digital platforms that built their fame were also used to challenge their control. A public backlash began in earnest after Melanie Wilking and her parents posted an emotional Instagram live video detailing their estrangement from Miranda. This video was the start, prompting media investigations and culminating in the Netflix documentary, which gave a broad platform to the stories of former members. This is a double-edged sword of social media. It can be used to construct a deceptive facade, but it can also be used by victims and their families to tear that facade down. The 7M case is a form of high control group called the cult as corporation. Unlike traditional cults that depend on abstract promises of future salvation, 7M offered a concrete promise. I will make you rich and famous. Robert Chin was able to deliver on this promise, securing tangible success for his clients. Fulfilling this claim creates a more insidious form of control. It validates the leader's authority and methods. The success becomes the ultimate justification for the abuse. And that makes it difficult for members to question a system that is apparently working. This model is great for the fame-obsessed culture, making it a dangerous template for exploitation in the social media age. On a whole other end of the spectrum is the Step Chickens cult. This group at its peak boasted over 2 million followers. And it's a satirical performative movement that consciously adopted the language and aesthetic of a cult for comedic effect and community building. This is a group that used digital culture, memes, and the collective search for connection during the isolation of the COVID-19 pandemic. Shows how cult aesthetics can be used as sort of a tongue-in-cheek community building method. The Step Chickens was founded in early 2020 by Melissa Ong, a comedian and former Google researcher who went by the moniker Mother Hen on TikTok. The group was designed to be satirical. The name Step Chicken stemmed from a series of parody videos Ong created for an imaginary chicken-themed website called Corn Hub. Ong herself described the idea as something that came to her when she was stoned at 3 a.m., which frames the entire enterprise as playful, not something that is super serious. This comedy cult rapidly gained traction in the cultural environment of the 2020 pandemic lockdowns. At the time, the world was deprived of fun and connection, and the Step Chickens offered a shared sense of purpose and belonging, albeit a fictional, funny one. The movement provided an escape and a creative activity when real-world interaction was impossible, tapping into a deep societal need for community. The Step Chickens mimicked the behaviors of a cult, but were stripped of any genuine coercion or exploitation. They were forms of digital performance and play, almost like a large online role-playing game. They incorporated rituals such as changing their profile picture. Ong issued commandments to her followers, the most prominent of which was to change their TikTok profile pictures to a specific blue-tinted selfie of her face. The goal, according to Ong, was total internet domination. And the success was remarkable, with even the official TikTok accounts for the Washington Post, the Houston Rockets, and the state of Ohio temporarily adopting the Mother Hen avatar. The Step Chickens would engage in raiding comment sections, in mock cult battles against rival TikTok groups. Ong would encourage her followers to storm the comment sections of other users' pages and spam them. One famous battle took place on the page of Phil Swift, the creator of Flex Tape, and was framed as a fun, chaotic, and ultimately harmless activity. These activities use vocabulary that is found in cults. Pledge allegiance, rise up, battles, but they were entirely voluntary and lacked any core elements of coercive control. There was no financial exploitation, no forced isolation from the family, and no psychological abuse. It was a performance of a cult, not the actual practice of one. The rise of the Step Chickens was a result of the global pandemic. The boredom, anxiety, and isolation of the lockdowns created a fertile ground for this type of performance. The cult offered an interactive, engaging, and humorous distraction from a grim reality. It provided a sense of community and collective identity at a time when people were physically separated from their friends and social networks and full of anxiety. The Step Chickens was a example of live action role playing the game of a cult. Another example of a TikTok cult is The Garden, which is an off-grid community in the American South. This group started as a physical, intentional community with a utopian vision. However, their decision to use TikTok as a recruitment tool put them in the viral spotlight and has subjected their alternative lifestyle to intense, hostile scrutiny of a global audience. The garden has described itself as a leaderless, egalitarian, and off-grid international community situated on a 22-acre plot of land in Tennessee. Its core ideology was rooted in a rejection of corporate monotony and a desire to live a self-sustaining life closer to nature. And I think a lot of people like that idea. In theory, the community operated on consensus-based decision-making, democratic decision-making, with no formal hierarchy, and members who contributed through labor like gardening and construction. The vision was one of an open, inclusive space where people could escape the pressures of mainstream society and explore an alternative way of living. To grow their community, members of the garden began posting videos on TikTok. The most notable user on TikTok was a user named Tree. They publicly shared the address and issued an open invitation for people to come to a 10-day trial visit, with the possibility of staying longer upon council approval. This was intended to attract like-minded individuals drawn to the cottagecore aesthetic and a romanticized vision of communal living. The garden's open recruitment on TikTok was the first major red flag for many online observers. Amateur sleuths and critics pointed out that genuine established communes are typically closed communities with rigorous application processes. They don't advertise on viral video platforms. The open door policy was immediately labeled as culty and suspicious. As millions of eyes from TikTok turned towards the commune, a series of controversies erupted, amplified, and dissected by a legion of amateur detectives on Cult-Tok. Online investigators discovered that some prominent members of the garden were promoting dangerous misinformation. The community's failure to denounce these views was seen as deeply concerning, especially given TikTok's young demographic. The viral attention that the garden sought for recruitment quickly turned into a problem. The constant scrutiny led to real-world consequences, including threats of violence against residents and official visits from the Child Protective Services and Animal Control. The digital space had breached their physical isolation. The pressure became so intense that in March 2021, the garden announced it was closing its doors to the public because of the visibility that TikTok brought it. The garden attempted to use TikTok to build a community, and TikTok ended up tearing down that. The platform's users acted as a distributed informal surveillance network, policing the commune's behavior and enforcing societal norms. This shows that the moment a group starts using digital platforms for communication or recruitment, compromise as the platform itself becomes the agent that the group into the very society it rejected, usually through intense public scrutiny. The garden later reopened a new location in Missouri, inviting cameras for a docuseries in an attempt to reclaim and control their public narrative. Looking at the emergence of TikTok cults, it's clear that the term TikTok cult is meaningless because it's so broad. It shows that there is such a vast spectrum of these groups, and really the ones that people should be on the lookout are those that exhibit abusive, coercive control behavior. The problem being, of course, cult is such a word that gets people's attention and immediately causes visceral opinions with the person receiving that message. There is a powerful human impulse to find belonging, purpose, and certainty. And in our times now, which are uncertain, this search plays out in many different ways on social media, especially TikTok. Everyone is searching for meaning, and a lot of people are searching to find that on their phones, through their social media, behind the glass. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Make sure that you like and share this video. Make sure that you're following me on social media. Make sure that you're following me on Blue Sky, Twitter, and TikTok. My username is AKBruce. If there is a spooky or disturbing story you would like me to cover, leave a comment and tell me about it. Or if you like the video, leave a comment and tell me about it. I read all my comments and I respond to most of my comments. Or if you're feeling shy, send me an email. My email address is thespookylawyer@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a link in the description of this video to buy me a coffee, so buy me a coffee. Or you can become a member of this channel. For $1.99, which is the basic tier of membership, you can get access to exclusive content, including exclusive videos, as well as access to my videos before they are made public. I would appreciate it if you consider this. I'm going to put the names of all the people who have donated to this channel here. Thank you all very much. I'm going to put the names of all the members of this channel here. Thank you all very much. You also can support me by clicking like, sharing this video, and continuing to watch my video. It really means a lot to me that you watch my videos. And please stay spooky.